So Ubisoft Forward just recently concluded and there was quite a lot of Assassin's Creed Mirage that was shown. We finally got a story trailer that's not CGI, which does look pretty promising. We also got some gameplay this time and not 2 or 3 second teases that Ubisoft's been releasing over the past few weeks. And a lot of, well, interesting parkour and combat was also shown, which I'll talk about in this video. So without wasting any more of your time, I'm just gonna dive right into it and break down everything we saw at the Ubisoft Forward event for Assassin's Creed Mirage. So the first thing that they showed was the story trailer, and it actually looks pretty good in my opinion. We get to see a younger Basim at the age of 17 being rescued by who we know as Roshan, so it's kinda clear how the story is going to go. Roshan being the mentor to Basim and training him in the ways of becoming a master assassin. Basim at this point in the trailer seems like he has zero knowledge of the assassins. After all, he's not able to perform even a leap of faith as shown in this scene. We also get to see some more glimpses of jinn stuff, which if you don't know are sentient beings in Arabian culture. Now this is going to be an interesting aspect in Mirage, as it's said that Basim struggles with visions of jinns haunting him, so I'm actually intrigued to see how this would play out. And if I was to bet, I'd guess that Basim would randomly start hallucinating throughout the story. That's just a shout, I could be entirely wrong. Feathers are big in this time period for the assassins. Mentefula talked about how they dipped the feather in the blood of their targets, which originated from ancient Egypt. We've seen Bayek and Aya do this in Assassin's Creed Origins. I mean, after all, they did form the Hidden Ones. The next few scenes are essentially Basim training to become an assassin. Then we see the Order of Ancients being shown, and to be fair, these masks do look pretty cool, especially this guy's big ass metal mustache. Oh, and if I was to make another wild guess, I'd bet all my money that this guy is the leader of the Order. I don't know what it is about him, but he seems like he would be evil. This trailer gave me a lot of Assassin's Creed Origin vibes. I think that's partly due to the fact that Baghdad in this time period is a desert climate. We can see here that the camels are going to be mounts, which is expected, as well as regular horses. The rest of this part is just essentially showing Basim's growth from training as a complete newbie assassin to his journey to becoming a master assassin. And here we can see Basim and a jinn face to face. So just like I mentioned earlier, it does appear that he'll start hallucinating throughout the story. These jinns do look terrifying though, I'll be honest. Ubisoft did do a great job designing them. Basim's actual character from the story trailer compared to the CGI trailer is definitely different, but in a good way. I personally think he kinda looks badass as a younger adult. Roshan also looks pretty cool too, as well as Mentefula, but to me this character is the most interesting one. This is Nihal, which is Basim's childhood friend and fellow street thief. I think it's pretty obvious that she'll play a very important role in the story, whether that be a tragic one or a happy ending one. And if I was to guess once again, well, let's just say RIP, because this is Assassin's Creed. Other than that, some other things I noticed was that we got our first glimpse of Alamut Castle that's not CGI or images. Of course it's most likely not going to be accessible, but I'd assume some parts around it would be, as you can see Basim here fighting around the castle. So overall the story trailer does look pretty good. Ubisoft definitely did a great job creating that. I didn't really expect to see a story trailer at Ubisoft Forward. I thought we'd only get to see more gameplay footage, so I'll take this as a bonus. Now for the more juicy stuff, which is the gameplay. Before I go into it, this setting looks insane. It's so vibrant and compact, which is what I love about it. It genuinely looks like we don't even need to touch the ground because of how many rooftops and things there are to navigate and parkour through. Let's start with the wanted poster on the wall, because we can clearly see that he's wearing the blue robes in this drawing, which obviously illustrates that he's not yet at his master assassin stage in the game. One important feature about these wanted posters is that they serve a purpose. You see, removing them from the walls would reduce your wanted level, resulting in fewer guards attacking that specific area of where you've taken it down. This mechanic is very reminiscent of how they did it in Assassin's Creed 2. Now when it comes to the UI, I must say it does look clean. There's a minimalistic look about it which I'm a big fan of. Breaking down each icon on the compass seems pretty straightforward. The first icon appears to be one of the assassin bureaus that would be scattered throughout Baghdad. The second icon to me still confuses me. It could either look like the main objective icon or a side objective icon. The third icon appears to be some sort of merchant store or a general goods store, and next to it the needle and thread, that appears to be where we could potentially alter our appearance on our assassin's robes. I say this because we do know that we're able to change the appearance of our robes to different colours. Oh, and lastly on the compass, hidden away, I believe this is a wanted poster of Basim. So just like I mentioned earlier, I'd assume that we're able to remove this off a wall to remove the wanted attention from Basim in that particular area or region. Now at the bottom of the screen, there's 3 icons. The first being the symbol of an eye, which could be that enemies would start to be looking for you if you continue to be a nuisance or kill enemies in the streets. The second icon being the symbol of a bow and arrow could most likely resemble enemy archers that would spawn on the rooftops to try and target you from above, which I assume I'm correct because in this scene the bar is filled up to that bow and arrow point and we can see an archer just on top of a random rooftop waiting for you to pass by. And this third icon, which resembles a sword and some sort of knife, could mean that if we fill the bar all the way up to this point, bounty hunters or mercenaries could come looking for you, which personally I'd love, because knowing me, I'd purposely fill up that bar to the max just to fight them big boys. Now when Ubisoft said that the parkour would be reminiscent of Unity's parkour system, I'm pretty sure they were talking about the objects and environments that we can parkour on, because I'll be honest, the actual parkour itself from this gameplay does appear kind of similar to Valhalla, but there is an improvement in the fluidity and speed. However, it does seem like it's just holding the forward button and you're off, which I know for a fact that many people may not like. Now for me, I would have preferred a bit more in terms of how we'd engage in the parkour. Assassinations, however, do look clean. I do hope we're able to turn off the health bars because I'm not a fan of health bars in video games. Well, except for the Souls-like games. I do like how Ubisoft have removed quite a lot of RPG elements in Mirage, such as the leveling system and also the damage numbers. Seeing 6-digit numbers on your screen when fighting an enemy was really tedious. It does appear that here we're able to interact with parts of the environment to use as distractions to get away from enemies quickly, which is a pretty cool mechanic in the game. Now already, just from the start of this gameplay footage, it's very reminiscent of Assassin's Creed 1. Now that just could be me, but that's how I feel about it. We also see that this era of Baghdad is a water city, which is what the developers described it as. So it does appear that we're able to use small canal boats to navigate through these stretches of water. Now just like I mentioned earlier, there's an incredible amount of objects and scaffolding to parkour on. I don't even think Basim has touched the floor yet since he started fleeing from those enemies. Now one thing that's hidden, but if you pause it at the right time, is you're able to see these carpets with the assassin's logo embedded into it. This basically means that you're near an assassin bureau. Here we get to see inside one of these bureaus where we meet characters that we already know, such as Roshan and Fulad. Now I don't know if it's just me, but this guy reminds me of Hytham from Valhalla. He seems like he would be Mirage's version of him, I guess. The developers talked about how he provides you with tools to use throughout your journey, and speaking of his tools, this is what it seems like he can provide you with. It appears that this isn't going to operate like a shop where we can spend our in-game currency on. We get the opportunity to unlock each new tool every time we rank up by completing contracts that can be found within the bureau. These tools can be upgraded via the skill tree once we unlock them, so that's pretty cool. Now if I was to take a guess on what these tools are, well, this one is a torch, which I'm kind of confused why that's even featured here. This one is of course the blow dart, which upgraded will give us the option to make our projectile either put an enemy to sleep or turn them berserk, which is just like what Black Flag had with their blow dart system. This would be the throwing knives. This one is a device that creates noise to distract enemies. Now this one is a trap that I assume would explode. And lastly, this one, I don't have a clue yet. It could just be medicine that acts as a healing item. I could be entirely wrong about all of these, but if I had to guess, that's just what I would have guessed for each tool. Now here they showcase what one of the contract boards look like in the bureau. This is where we'd be able to collect a contract to fulfill. Each one of these contracts has a special contractor request to them, such as this one, where we are required to not take damage. It does appear that the rewards of these contracts will all kind of be similar to each other, where we'd get some material which are standard stuff, but there's also this kind of token. Now this token will act as a faction specific token, which means we would need this to use as currency to pay factions to allow us to get into restricted areas or to work for us. There's also this reward item, which I assume is basically skill points, so that's pretty useful to complete. Now here we can see Basim meditating to allow the time of day to pass, which is a feature that I liked in the recent Assassin's Creed games, but the drawbacks of this one in Assassin's Creed Mirage is that we're only allowed to meditate or pass time where the game intends us to, such as this bench. Fast forward a little and now we're about to assassinate the intended target, being a captain. Here we can see Basim call for his eagle, named Enkidu, to locate for the target and other enemies. However, there's a marksman enemy that can be able to shoot your eagle and cause it to flee. This is a whole new feature that they added in, and I'm all for it. It's something different and it will definitely change the way that we approach enemy forts and objectives. Here we can see that the original eagle vision is back, so thank God for that. And what's new is that they've added a kind of field of vision for enemies. So as you can see here, this guard's view is only able to see what's directly in front of him. He's a bit blind. It's a new feature that's pretty simple, but these little features are what makes a game feel fresh and exciting. Here we can see social stealth in action, as this guard decides not to question why a grown man with a hood is standing next to 3 women. Anyway, take a look at this. It could just be me, but doesn't this assassinate prompt seem a bit far away from Basim? It looks about 10 foot away, which seems a bit broken to me. Anyway, let me get back on track. We finally see the tool wheel in action, and it does appear only one tool at a time can be selected, which in this case is the blow dart, and it operates as expected. Here we can see another tool being used. This time it's the noisemaker tool, which is in the name of what it does, makes noise. Another returning feature that they added were throwing knives. In Valhalla, this was done with axes, but of course this isn't as brutal as the Viking era, so they resorted to little knives. The skill is an unlockable skill from the skill tree, so you need to unlock it to be able to use it. Now, if you watched my previous Assassin's Creed Mirage video, I mentioned how Basim would be faster than Eivor, and here it clearly shows. Look how quickly he can vertically start climbing upwards. It appears that taking out the marksman in enemy camps or forts is what allows us to start using our eagle, Enkidu, again. We can also see that our focus bar at the bottom left of our screen has fully increased. I'll talk more about that shortly. Now that we're able to use Enkidu, we can locate the target that we need to assassinate, being highlighted in gold, which is exactly what the old AC games would be like too. Now this part of the gameplay showcase is what got a lot of people talking about, including me. Here we can see that the assassin focus mode is in use, and let me tell you, I'm not a fan. So Basim marks each target, which costs 1 bar of focus, and once we've selected each target, well, take a look at this.
The ghostly shape of Basim appears beside each of the guards. Basim is transported to each of the 3 spots, one after the other, where he quickly dispatches each of the 3 men.
Yeah, that's a bit absurd. It's kind of what we've seen in Valhalla with the teleport bow ability, which I was not a fan of too. And considering in this game it's used in a more crazy way, well, I think it's just silly. Of course, we don't need to use this feature if we don't want to, but if the developers' words were back to the roots, then this would be the furthest thing I'd have in mind that would feature in Assassin's Creed Mirage. But there's actually some lore behind it apparently. You see, the reason that Basim is able to do this is because the Animus cannot keep up with him. This is because he's so fast and that he's Loki. So technically he's not actually teleporting, but in reality when we play the game, he is. Here we can see Basim throw a trap near this enemy. I'll mention that shortly. We then see Basim finally assassinate the intended target. Now I wouldn't pay too much attention of the cinematic of Basim jumping down because I think it's just altered to make the gameplay look better. We also get to see parrying be a thing, as this enemy attempts to attack Basim, which prompts us to use 2 options. Either kick back or kill. I would assume that the kick would make the enemy fall to the ground, where we could either put a blade through his chest or simply just give us more time to escape, and in this case, Basim used the kill option and puts his sword through the enemy's chest. Now, the trap that Basim throws near this enemy gets used and emits some sort of green poisonous cloud that forces the enemy onto their back, allowing us to either finish him off or escape. We also get to see the smoke bomb being used to help us escape the area, with it being a very vibrant red, which kind of surprised me, as we're used to seeing, grey smoke. Lastly, we can see Basim assassinate this enemy and finally flee the area, and successfully completing the assassination contract. So yeah, that's where the gameplay ends. Now personally, I'm all for it. I think what they showcased at the Ubisoft Forward with the story trailer and then the gameplay footage was great. My only downside of it all was the unrealistic chain assassination that Basim did. Other than that, I'm sold. The gameplay did feel a bit nostalgic in terms of Assassin's Creed 1 and just the overall setting of how compact everything is. So I can't wait to play the game when it comes out later this year. And yeah, if you're somehow still watching this, simply hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and drop a like if you did enjoy this video, and I'll see you in the next one.